We have a recorder on the side, from the state on a side recording, device and just Zoom, so that's why I clap, so things could be time synced if there's any other issues that may or may not arise.
It's our county equipment. not state.
Exactly, I'm just telling the public that we're using a
Use
second
state.
audio device in ways of recording of this public meeting in front of the owl. So thank you very much for your time. Today is March 24th, 2025. All right, do we have quorum?
Yes.
Okay. And right now, we need to approval of the meeting minutes. Do we need to explain the meeting minutes of last meeting now, or would you like me to approve the meeting minutes right now in ways of this one?
We can't approve any meetings because we don't have them.
Okay, so what happened was last meeting, as I was trying to approve this meeting, that there was a technical error that happened from the county side that usually don't happen in Advisory County, but honestly, in what I do, and knowing that Access Television and other stuff has its own quality challenges, I would like the county to explain what may or may not have happened and how we move forward within the meeting minutes and what other advisory council usually have to do by rules. Thank you.
So I don't think there's any rule on Zoom in our in any of our advisory council rules, but when I record the meetings, it converts from Zoom and it saves to a local drive on our files. Something happened in the conversion process, and so I can see the video. Everybody's moving at like a normal speed, and then when you listen to the sound, it sounds, you can't understand any of the words. So I have reached out to tech support a couple of times now. A ticket is in, it's been in since the 17th, and we are still waiting. There's one person there who is a Zoom wizard, so we were waiting to hear back from them. We don't have anything otherwise as far as minutes for you to approve from last time because we can't fetch them at this time. So we do have, and what we are going to start using is this little recorder thing on the desk. And we are hoping that that will be a good backup solution, so this doesn't happen again. And however many 30-something meetings we've had so far, this hasn't happened before, but hopefully this will prevent it from happening again.
Hopefully it's over 20 SPL levels up to a maximum of 1 SLP down level pressures on the second device. So hopefully we'll get something to nothing. That's what my hope is on that. My only question is public record laws, and if anyone wants to pull record, how they do that, but we can have that conversation later. But there's an explanation of why we don't have the meeting minutes quite yet. And I would like to probably go through the approval process of today's monthly meeting agenda. Do I hear any objections from today's meeting agenda? As I hear none, it sounds like it's been approved as presented, and we can move on to the next topic on that. I should have asked if there was any questions, and I apologize. No questions on what the explanation was? Awesome. And we are on record, right, Amy?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Program update. And please tell them if you can hear them too on the owl.
Yeah, if you can hear us now, they'll let us know. So we'll migrate towards the front of the room if we need to. Let's see. Well, we understand there might be some program updates people are hoping to hear. Let's see. I first wanted to acknowledge I think last meeting I asked folks and I sent out some emails about participating in interview panels, and nothing matched up with anybody's availability. So I want to tell you that we're moving forward with our interviews and making some hiring decisions, and we'll keep sharing those opportunities as they come along. But I think one of the things that I recognized is the earlier we can get that information to you all, the better, because those commitments are, well, one, we're doing most of our interviews in person. It just allows us to get a better sense of who we're hiring. But the commitment is fairly significant. Like even when we're running a relatively smaller recruitment, not like service coordinators. Those interviews could go on for multiple days if you're filling multiple vacancies. So they can be like 2 full days for the first round and another full day for the second. The ones we've been running, not quite, we're only filling 1 position, so, but they're still like they were a full day of first round interviews, and then second round, they're usually a minimum of 3 hours, but that doesn't include any like debriefing and scoring and some of the process you have to go through. So just as we send these opportunities for you in the future, if you're able to help, great. But we also recognize that it is a significant time commitment for people that we get to build it in right into our schedule. So we'll keep you all informed of those opportunities, but the availability that was provided for the people who replied and what was provided didn't work within our interview schedule. So I just wanted to say thank you for those that interviewed, and that more opportunities, but those 2 recruitments that I sent messages about, we're still going. I mean, they're almost done. We're offering position. We're at the point of offering positions. So does anybody have any questions about that?
Can you remind us again?
Oh, they were a children's supervisor on the children's case management team. It's like a co-supervisor position, and the other one is the home supervisor position.
I think the only question I had as a committee member, if I don't see any questions up there, is the owner person in particular, and hopefully that the next leaders can understand what happens in our services from the past to what is the future, in ways that the hours being readjusted or not readjusted, because I mean, there will be, a lot of pressure on that person. And I understand there is a immense amount of, of different processes, but I do want to point out, if we can remind ourselves where we were and how the services may or may not be cut or not cut, that is something that's important.
The reduction in this release.
Exactly, but I'm so happy that we widened this opportunity to the council in the last month or so, because that just shows that, even though it takes a lot of time for county work to be done, it does show that there is progress within certain aspects, even though we may or may not be in the conversations on the other end.
And we were able to get outside input in those hiring processes, and like a state quality assurance trainer participated.
And then also, we probably should add in our bylaws in, these opportunities for the future council members, at least, and try to figure out, how we navigate future opportunities also. And then my next question was, do we have the new director that came in, and when would she be willing to come in?
She's our director of social services, Tracy Hero. She's willing to come whenever the council wants her to be here.
Okay. So I know as a self-advocate, I would love to meet that one, because the last one that we had understood certain languages within our mission statement that made me feel positive in understanding that the direction that we were going for the future as a council. All right, I think that's all
I have a comment from Lyra.
Yeah.
And I think the email that you're talking about, just to clarify, you reached out to people who indicated that they were interested in participating in interviews. So it didn't go out to everybody, it just went out to folks who said they were interested. Is that correct?
Exactly, but in the future, they'll go out. I would cast the net a lot more widely, and they will go
To the
out
council?
everybody,
Okay.
yes, who might
Okay.
be available and interested, so
Okay.
yeah. But those ones were relatively quick, and they had some potential volunteers, so.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
I don't think that's the only update we have though.
Oh, no.
So, because I think, let's see, so John did reference you referenced the service group reduction, so, so the ONA will be the only tool that sets service group hours for in-home services, and starts April 1st, and so potential reductions could happen in in-home service hours for people. And so, we're navigating, just like, families are navigating this change. It is not easy. It's not easy. Our service coordinators are trying to navigate the change. The ONA assessors also navigating the change, because they're the ones doing the assessments and are setting those levels. So we're having lots of hard conversations, but really trying to support families through these processes, and if a service group, the next owner ends up in a service group reduction, and a family or individual agrees to that reduction, then the service coordinator in our county issues a NOPA or notification of planned action to reduce those service hours, and things just move forward. If, however, there is a reduction and the individual needs more support, and then an exception can be requested right away. The service coordinator can help with that. Families can actually do exceptions of themselves online, but that's your service coordinator is there to help you if that were to happen too. And so for the next year, starting in April, these reductions could happen and could be impacting families. And so we'll be working to support families through this process. Yes.
I just want to add to that those people that are identified as potentially getting a reduction in hours are being sent a letter to let them know, hey, you might get a reduction in hours, and those are at least 30 days.
At least 30
prior
days
to the ISP.
Start of their new ISP.
Yeah, so we are doing that every month for the next year until people are we're all up to date on this new process.
I have a question.
Yep.
So in-home is a little bit different than foster care, but if they're getting a notice 30 days prior to their ISP, typically the onus are done roughly 30 days.
Yeah.
30 days prior to that.
They're gonna, we try to move them 2 months prior to their ISP start date.
So then they might walk into an ONA not knowing it's coming.
Yeah, yes, and they might have an ONA and it changed, so they really don't, the next ONA is done, there might really not be a reduction, and so some things absolutely can change, in that time frame. Yeah.
So I just went through an ONA
Yeah.
a couple months ago. So it's almost like different people that do the assessments can look at the same, I mean, if you have two people that, I mean, I know everybody's different, but relatively similar in abilities.
Yeah.
And this person all of a sudden was in category 5
Mhm.
and the other one's way down in the bottom level.
Well, that should not be the case in the ONA, really, unless, so there's a lot of nuances to the ONA, first of all. Like, a person could have high behaviors, 2 people could have high behaviors, and one has a behavior support plan that's implemented, trained, and meets all the criteria, and this person, the family's managing those behaviors, and they don't have that plan, they're gonna come out with completely different service group hours. So because they have to have like a plan that meets the criteria, even open up additional questions, those are usually the things that cause some of the most significant discrepancies in an assessment. And so, but otherwise, the assessors are trained to code the support needs on at least 50% of the days that it happens, and so they're trained to code the things similarly, but the questions that open up can be different based on if certain questions have to be asked to open other parts of the assessment. So, and then our service coordinators should be working with the family to talk about, and that's just kind of a prime example of where it happens, about the benefits of a behavior support plan, and how it could impact service hours and things like that. So otherwise they shouldn't have, 2 people have the same really high support needs, but their service grouping should not be majorly different. And so I'd be like asking more questions about why that is happening, so.
And it does make it tough if you have a new service coordinator onto your case, is not familiar with the individual, and then they wouldn't know to ask the questions and you wouldn't know to prompt for those kind of things, and that makes them challenging too.
So what is the transfer of a caseload, protocol? The transfer of caseload protocol, meaning that when one goes to one service coordinator to another, what is the protocol?
Oh, good lord. That's a separate.
We have a policy
Yeah.
for that, but that's, I mean, I think that's, we're getting way too far off the track.
Okay.
Where
Yeah.
we're at, but, and for a program update,
No, understand.
so.
Anyone have objection on that? Anne, thank you. What's your-
I just wanted to say, I'm one of those people whose individual went from 517 down to 160. We did not get a notice in the mail. That was our exception. That was denied. And there was no explanation. There was no justification of any kind. And the only thing that our brokerage could tell us was that it was likely because I'm a behavior consultant and he doesn't have a separate one from that. Which I understand, but then let's put, somebody should have told me that ahead of time, because we would have happily gone to get somebody else if I wasn't going to be qualified in that position anymore. Then somebody else should have told me, I think. So I think that there's some hiccups in that
And did
process.
you have, oh, yes, well, all case management entities, the business process of how they handle their own assessments are different, and so. Was it a service coordinator review, or did a full new assessment by a certified assessor?
Well, he had an owner last year
Yeah.
who said that his hours would be going up because of safety concerns. He has the skill he can shave himself and take care of his hygiene, which seems to be kind of the primary qualifier for services at this point. But because he's not safe and he's not predictable, and he's trying to live in his own home, it's just to go from 18 hours a day to 6 hours a day was, when we were told he was going to go up because of eloping. So
Well,
anyway, we didn't get a letter.
I'm happy to like problem solve like ONA questions outside of by the meeting. I've been supporting our ONA team for quite a few years. And I can't speak to how brokerages are handling their
Yeah,
notification
brokerage
letters.
just said that I was supposed to get a letter, and that's been
Well,
several
they
weeks
were
ago.
required to send it to you, just
No,
like.
they're
required to
telling
send
me
it.
I'm supposed to be watching for it from you guys.
No, and actually, each case management entity is supposed to send these letters out, and when they come out, they're signed by the state. They don't even have our names on them.
Okay,
So,
that's good to know.
but I would love, and if you have questions and you want to talk, because I have a whole bunch of questions back to you that the group doesn't want to listen to.
Yeah.
But I would be
Yeah,
happy
sure.
to talk with you about that.
Oh,
assessment.
we sent in another exception, so we'll see what happens with that.
Okay.
So taking services, a little bit over a certain amount of time, that I don't want to put on public record, it sounds like we're going to the old metrics and a little bit on the hours and ways of it being cut by 2/3 sometimes. And in ways of what Ann's pointing out and ways that other services is, and I think people are scared a little bit, and I understand that. What's happening as a whole, but council wise, my question would be later on, not because we have to move on. But how are self-advocates being driven into the disabilities on the inspection process if it's online? And that'll be later on, please put it as a note, but understand that, we have to move on because of time. But it is important to point out the history of where we were in ways that we have much more services in the last couple of years, and then how we move forward within our community relationship and the county program and other ideals for the future. All right, thank you very much for that part of the update. Anything on immigration and federal?
So we have, these are just some topics, so, our employees affected by the federal happenings and the immigration. So I think what we talked about is, yeah, I think everybody's affected by the federal happenings, but right now, we're not affected. Our jobs are not impacted at the moment. We continue to wait and hear, just like everybody, at any time when any executive orders may come down to impact the state. And what if there's anything that impacts the state, it will affect us, and we will know that when we hear it, but that's at this point. We haven't heard anything directly.
Okay.
The most that we have heard, I think, is from, and it's indirect, the Department of Education and what's happening there and how that is affecting VR, and how ultimately that will impact services for employment, and that ultimately individuals with disabilities, right? So But. And it'll go into the schools and how schools will not have that ties more directly to in between schools and VR and employment funding that. And that will affect us in the sense of what the individuals are able to receive and not receive.
Okay.
And immigration, we are learning about how we should interact should ICE show up in our place of work. We just received, supervisors just received some training, supervisors and managers received some training, and we'll be sharing that with our employees. Just how we are to interact, should ICE show up here on county property, or should ICE show up when we're in the field working, and how we if we encounter them, what we are supposed to do in those instances. But as of right now, we have not had any instances of that at this point, but we did just receive training and guidance if those situations should occur, what our role is and how we're to respond.
Any questions on the federal happenings in the way that we just heard about VR and other things to immigration, or any other information you'd like to know about the federal grants?
So I don't know if I heard this in the news necessarily, but somebody did say that they did. That there would be changes coming down, I guess, in just our state, because not every state pays for a parent to be a DSP. Have you guys heard anything like that, like changes coming?
Or federal,
Yeah. Because I guess it comes through Medicaid, so I think that's what they're.
The Medicaid cost in ways that. it
There
might be
there are bills out there that are currently going through the legislative process.
Yeah, that's what it is.
There's bills going through the legislative process. It's got, I mean, nothing to do with.
The county program
federal
quite yet.
happenings, I guess. I don't know.
Right,
But
right,
at our state level, there's a bill, couple bills actually, I think out there that are making their way through the legislature regarding parents as paid caregivers. And they're making their way through the state legislature right now. And whether or not, I mean, I think that is it's would be whether or not Medicaid, it's not Medicaid, it's Medicare, it's the CMS, Center for Medicaid, Medicare, they would okay that, and how they would okay that, if there's a requirement for us to make that appeal to, not us, ODBS, to make that appeal. It would be a waiver change.
Yeah. So, for our new members, I've already asked, any new things happening in the county within the parent, ideals and everything, and Kim said not quite yet until later, or a response, before you guys were onboarded and put in. So it takes time for the legislative process where we get front end information and not. I'm gonna ask the front end information, and I don't remember the exact words on it. So, BR is now having, something like open selection or something in ways of tightening and putting people on wait lists and stuff like that. How has that been affected within the federal language that you pointed out in Clackamas County quite yet?
Okay, so to answer your question.
Yeah.
I'm gonna finish answering her question.
Please do, please, yeah, I'm out to speak on your behalf.
So, for your question, so that's where we're at right now, is that it's until the legislature is done passing bills. We won't know anything more about the parent as paid caregiver, and what the outcome of that is gonna be. So, and so we're still waiting. Order of selection.
Order of selection, thank you.
The order of selection as of right now, VR is still, as far as individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, offering services as they have. So for right now, we are not, nothing has changed.
Got it, you got my language, thank you, I
Yeah.
appreciate that third piece.
There are public meetings being held with VR. Should anybody be interested in them, we can send that information out to the council if there's any desire to participate in those open public sessions to understand what order of selection means, and how they go about it. And because those rules will be getting updated, they'll be doing emergency rules and stuff. So we can send that out in the minutes, or afterwards, not in the minutes, but maybe even just sooner than the minutes might come out, so that, because the meetings are coming up pretty soon. So that if people want to participate in those meetings, they can, so that they can learn more about it. Because I would never do it justice to explain it.
No, I'm not looking for a full explanation on this.
No.
I just want to make sure that even though I'm in front of the conversation, I understand taking time for the county to get through the conversation. Yeah, sure.
I just want to clarify for the record, in terms of caregivers, parents, I think a lot of you already know this, but parents can be paid caregivers already for their adult children for 18 and over. And then for younger, there is, I don't know what it stands for, but I believe it's CIIS, and it is, children who have pretty significant medical needs. And there has, I think they agreed to about 1,500 cases, but they only opened with, I don't know, 150. It's not my situation, so I don't know all the details, but it's working through the process to try to get everyone who is on that wait list included in the funding. So that's all I know right now, but they are definitely working through the
The
process.
CEN waiver, thank you, Sarah. The CEN waiver, Children's Extraordinary Needs Waiver.
Mm.
Yeah, and
There is also CIIS, but
that's
it's different than the
Okay.
parent, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The CEN waiver, you're right, and parents, and it's the children have to be like 240 hours or something.
Yeah, they have to be at
20 hours.
highest service group level, 5M or 5B.
5M or
Oh.
5B.
And then, yes, there's a long wait list, because there was like 1,400 and they only took 150 to start. And so their bills are, they want to expand that to like.
So that's okay.
Here, so,
Yeah.
and there is a Senate, I mean, if you're interested, it's, until 5:38.
And as chair, I've done my best to try to point out this issue every so often in ways to try to see where the county was on this as an advisory council and beyond. We kind of have to move on. We're a little bit late for abuse reports, just an update with Sarah Lambert and subcommittee.
Actually, John, in there, there's some more.
No, if you want to talk about the elections, the upcoming elections, just act like what I said, chair. So for myself, being the fruit tree that I am, in ways that we had to describe ourselves as trees, and in the beginning of all this, I'm gonna be stepping down, just like the self-advocacy side where I taking some action and outreach and stuff. It's time for others to grow their wings and branches and buds and everything like that. And when I see a self-advocacy bill, going on concepts around the legislators, when I see other people trying to point out certain other aspects in their own concept this session, but last session, it was not even a case in the disability bill. I feel it's time for others. So we have an upcoming election in May. And Sarah Lambert, would you like more information on that, or are you doing anything on that? And how are we navigating that conversation in ways of the full council?
I thought Sarah was gonna,
Yeah, Sarah's good.
go ahead. You got it.
I can say too.
We just wanted to make mention that to the council that in May, the opening for chair and co-chair will become available. And so we wanted to kind of let everybody know if you're interested in applying for one of those positions, if you want more information about what it entails, this would be the time to gather that information. And then we would want to know who is interested by when. We want to know before May so that we're actually making a decision in May, not having the discussion in May.
Yeah.
So between
Yeah,
now and
it
April.
can be pretty, and I keep on looking up here, but we're actually talking and looking at this. It is weird.
I'm looking at them.
Really anytime up to, we're at the day of the meeting, honestly, if you decide like you want to be, you want to be in the chair or the co-chair position. I think moving forward, it would be nice to have, and this is just my 2 cents, it would be nice to have the co-chair be like a step into chair and that we kind of move that way, but we haven't ever done that before. So really, every May we do elections. It's a year-long term. And so whoever is interested. And really, what I will speak to is, the chair, as you know, kind of facilitates the meetings. And the co-chair helps co-facilitate and will facilitate in absence of the chair. So if John is out, then Sarah would come in and lead the meeting. All the positions are still equal. There's equal voting ground as far as that is concerned. There's also one more meeting a month, because even though we have a proposed annual agenda, we still meet one more time prior to the meeting to just kind of iron out any details or new additions. So it's an extra meeting and it's facilitation.
And it's typically done over Zoom.
And that other meeting in the month is typically done over Zoom, so.
John,
You have a question?
Yeah, I was just wanting to know if there was something specific people had to do to apply.
No, it sounds like
Just let somebody know.
we're gonna do 4 votes. But one thing that I will say as a self-advocate and voices of this position is how important to maybe put in the bylaws conversation in ways of putting someone on the executive team within the chair and co-chair. Yeah, for me, I can stand back because I've had my rounds right now, but to me, one thing that I've been pushing for other community partners and stuff is to point out that voice within the executive side and how they can move forward within the title. Hopefully there'll be more than one self-advocacy position in ways that we can have multiple people within this role rather than just community members, but it's something that's important to put in the note for me as we move forward with this conversation and how we move forward within the leadership.
so that's basically it. Be thinking about it. If it's something that you guys want, and reach out, you can reach out to me, you could reach out to Amy,
Yeah, that's it.
ready, John and.
All 3 of us.
Yeah, and then let us know if you're interested.
Yeah, you can also let us know if you,
I've thought about this actually for a while, and I've been saying I wasn't sure, but I would be, I would entertain becoming chair if I was nominated to be chair, so. Yeah.
And of course, I'm stepping back, but if I was elected on something, I would consider it on the day, but I'm not someone who likes to represent myself when I go through these processes within both worlds of where I advocate.
Lyra, I just wanted to point out in the chat, Lyra says that they are interested as a self-advocate.
And also, multiple people can run for each position. It's not, it's like say that I would decide to put myself in for chair, you could be chair too, and then the council votes. So just because one person's there doesn't mean we can't have 3 or 4 people going for it.
Exactly. We're good for going for it. Lyra, I just want to clarify one thing. You are a self-advocate in my eyes, but on a county side in this advisory council, this is why I mentioned why we should have more than one self-advocate position. Is it considered a self-advocate, which I'm totally cool, but I would like to know if it's just family members and members of the community, or is it really a self-advocate in other positions? Because when I was told, or remember, it was only me that was a self-advocate and other voices could apply and have been accepted.
Well, go ahead. I was just gonna say that
It might be a bylaws conversation.
it's all bylaws.
It
So
is.
the bylaws, according to the bylaws, we have one advocate position, which is filled, as you know, because
Yeah.
it's you. And the others are individuals or their families. So there's those positions and then 3 providers.
And
So-
absolutely, we'll take note, Leah, that you are interested in this position in running for chair or co-chair.
Right, regardless of whether you're a advocate or an individual, the footing is the same. You
I
have the
want to
same level
protect,
playing
I'm trying to
ground.
protect right now in the language within that thing. Are you okay with that, Leah?
Yeah, I'm just curious what you mean by that.
All
As
right,
far as there only being one self-advocate, like,
yeah.
when we go to recruit people for the council, we have room for, one self-advocate, and this is in the bylaws, one self-advocate, 3 providers in the community, in the DDID community, and then however many left that can be individuals or families of individuals who experience IDD. So really, it's just a formality of how the council is made up to be representative of the community. These are, again, bylaws. One of the reasons that we are adopting them is because I think people want to see some changes in there. But until we make official changes to the bylaws, those are the rules that we have to follow.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Lara, I think, that is a fair question. And, absolutely, whether someone's identified as an advocate or a person of the community, their role is equal, and I would support changing the language in the bylaws. There doesn't seem to be any purpose behind identifying someone differently, because I believe they're all self-advocates, and they're gonna be a part of the county.
I really don't want to take away a schedule there, but you did identify as being interested in a chair and whatnot, and I think the council have made that note for now. We can explain maybe later on other questions that you may have. I need to move forward within the abuse reporting system for about 10 to 15.
We can also, if there are questions though that people have related to
Okay.
this topic, we should leave room for people to have questions.
I have no problem with that, Chip. I want to make sure that people know that I'm trying to follow the bylaw.
Oh, yeah.
Let's continue the conversation then.
We have room in our.
Oh, we're good.
agenda.
I'm good.
I don't wanna, forget, we did skip us a part in the, program update, the effects of the ARPA ending March 31st, which I'd like to add, because it's ending super soon. And I know it might impact a lot of folks that were hired in certain positions.
And I'll apologize to the public out there. I thought the federal happenings and the federal conversation was part of the other conversation, so that was on me on this and that. Thank you.
So that's the ARPA ending March 31st, 2025. The most significant thing I think that will impact on the end user experience is going to be the ending of the state-sponsored DocuSign for documents. So the state had implemented the use of DocuSign for many of the state documents. So we were able to send documents and you could electronically sign. That was funded through ARPA money, and that's gone. So effective March 31st, no more DocuSign unless your particular CME and case management entity is gonna pay for that themselves. It's a bit expensive, so that it may not be an option. There is another option that so we're looking into a couple of options in hopes of being able to find an alternative for those who have the technological savvy to be able to do electronic signatures, because I think people found that very nice to be able to do that, so that there wasn't the back and forth by trying to get it in the mail and send it back in the mail and not lose it. So we are pursuing a couple options. One is Adobe electronic signature, and we are also seeing if the county actually has a different, somebody else has a contract with DocuSign, that we might be able to jump on top of and say, hey, can we share? And see if we can use DocuSign, but we are still pursuing those options, so that if they're available to us, that we will be able to access them, so that there'll still be electronic signature options for folks. So as far as positions go, we were able to absorb, the 2 folks that moved into limited duration ARPA positions within our program moved back into other positions. Actually, one got a promotion and moved into eligibility, Georgetta, and then moved back into a lead service coordinator position on the adult res team. So yeah. So that those positions, they moved back into regular positions, so they were sort of back into the team. Those projects, the 2 projects that excuse me, were being worked on. The emergency preparedness Did they come and do a final presentation to Georgetta for the council afterwards?
I don't think so. We could, if the council's interested, we could
The
reach
final
out and see.
presentation, because does it like to talk about like how many homes got all the emergency,
Yeah, maybe she did come in, or some guests may come in. Please go back to the records and update us. I'm not gonna say yes, we did, because we may need to
But,
advise new
yeah, so
members.
look, we can get that information for the council, but the emergency preparedness project, we spent like almost 99% of the money that we got to provide, emergency, supplies.
So
And-
that right there?
Yes.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's really nice.
And the power backups,
And the
right?
power backups, yeah, so, and air conditioners,
Yeah.
so AC units and HEPA filters and generators and different things to meet whatever the needs were for a lot of people.
Are there
So-
some items that were not distributed then? Because I know the clients in the IDD program did receive bags with emergency supplies, but did not receive all of the items that you're talking about.
It was, those things were not for everyone, those things were prioritized, for those people with specific, needs, specific medical needs. And
Oh.
I'd have to talk to Georgetta to find out how that was done.
Yeah, I was gonna. I mean, like, I'm someone who uses a medical equipment that runs on power supply, so like, I would be interested to know, how people qualified for those items, or if people were even asked, or talked to about those.
I know from my personal experience, there were smaller, from an individual who received one, there were smaller, power portable devices that were offered to individuals, and the one that I'm aware of came through email, I believe from their service coordinator, but don't quote me on that one, I'm not entirely sure if that's where it came from.
Brokerage.
And brokerages may not have offered the same things. Also, each case management entity
That is-
had a different grant, received funding, and they used their funding differently as well.
So,
Yeah.
The conversations that I've been in it has been different, definitely being on the council, when you guys were deciding on certain level care. Emergency packs versus where everybody gets a special straw within the brokerage system. So that's where I ended up on that conversation.
Yeah, so our grants and how we did things with ours was different than what the brokerages did with theirs.
I see.
Yeah. And then we had the other grant was the provider engagement. And that also was great. And we learned a lot through that. And are we gonna, do we say time to show the
The website?
website?
We should, if we have time, yeah.
So we were able to engage with providers and build some relationships and I mean, Sarah was part of it, so she can probably tell you more than I can on how that project went, but and helped us really, I think, start to build, and it's gonna be ongoing. Whereas the emergency preparedness one really kind of ended. We started this project, and we're gonna be able to like continue it with the provider community, and to remain engaged in building the relationships and continuing to improve just how providers are supported, and yeah, keeping the community growing and getting stronger. Yeah.
I mean, and the ongoing, I believe, is just volunteer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the provider side, yeah,
Yes.
because we were reimbursing participation if people wanted it, for their participation and their skills and contributions, coming to the table. If we were asking them for something, we were asking for their skills and their input and their knowledge, and they came to the table to offer that and provide that to us. So there was a stipend that they were all paid, and we were happy to be able to do that. But moving forward. Unfortunately, no money.
Yep.
They're gonna volunteer.
We're still talking emergencies or another topic?
That was on our.
It's ARPA.
Oh, but yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so yeah, we brought in Ash Kane, an emergency person, and a couple other ARPA related conversations in the past, so. Hopefully we'll figure out a way where we can continue that conversation. All right, my question is, would you like to go on the pressing concerns and the HCBS Medicaid waiver and conversations to go in a conversation mode, or would we like to go to the abuse section to the
Oh,
community?
for
For the,
time.
yeah, for time and to, I really do want to respect the time of, the abuse system update thing.
Um, I hear you,
And I do worry about the foster home, I do too.
I'm okay in, tabling the potential reduction in hours, of the adult 1915 Medicaid waiver, so that we have time to discuss the abuse reporting system update. So I would second that or make a motion for that for this time.
Yeah.
That's what you're asking, right, John?
Yeah, I'm wondering how the council feels about that for now. Any objection? No, okay, I want to respect the HB whatnot and all that stuff. All right, so where are we on the schedule now? I kind of got lost on the HB CBS thing.
They're on the subcommittee are gonna talk about the abuse reporting system.
Thank you.
Well, and it says Sarah L, but Sarah Schwartz is actually.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Who's been putting in a lot, it's okay.
That's my mistake, I apologize.
No,
Has
we're
been
good.
putting in a lot of work and we appreciate this. So Sarah, if you wanna kick it off and then we can all jump in as we have questions and comments.
Sure. And John and Lyra, I did receive your emails and I wanted to make sure that you guys knew that I had seen those. And so Sarah Lambert and I met briefly after the last meeting. I'm sorry I was unable to attend. I was not feeling well. And so she and I met pretty soon after that, and because she wanted to give me an update on what was discussed at the meeting. And I believe the consensus was, or let me start again. I want everyone to realize this is just a first step in how I am viewing it, at least. It's a first step to get us in the door to try to get a registry that replicates what is already available for elder facilities. So hopefully, my dream is that once we are in the door and this is replicated, then we can go back and respectfully request that these extra things are added, because they would have to potentially build a new registry and commit funds to it and all of that. So this first step is just working on trying to get the same thing that is available now for seniors. I did want to give you guys an update as well. So prior to Shasta's resignation from the council, she had reached out to the Washington County DD Advisory Council and was able to secure agreement with them to co-sign. So I assumed that she had used the previous letter, the original draft. So I have sent their program manager, I've sent her a copy of the revised letter. And this is the one that you guys have, the most recent one. And they will meet, I believe they're meeting April 2nd. And she said she could try to get back to me, I believe, around April 7th, just to let their council members read the revised letter, make sure that they are in agreement. I'm obviously cautiously optimistic that they will be. And I will, in the meantime, reach out to Multnomah County and to Lane County, and then we can decide, how far do you want me to reach out? I'm happy to take the time to do that and then to figure out what we do next. But again, this first step is just to get us in the door and try to get the state to agree to replicate the registry.
A little fair, Lambert.
Yeah,
I
thank
do
you,
have it.
Sarah. And I wanted to just echo what you had said. So I know that we didn't have the availability to have a meeting minutes for last month. But I did take a few notes and we were discussing the letter. And so there were some questions with the grammar. Lisa was concerned with some grammar. Lyra really wanted to make sure that we captured the unsubstantiated claims. And then I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, because my notes are just shorthand, but it was Chris, Bruce, myself, Anne, and I cannot remember who else, and I didn't write it down, who had stated that something, the concern was, we're asking for something completely new and we may get turned down from it. Should we focus on just having a duplication of what was going on first? And then I think the conversation, and anybody correct me if I'm wrong, because my memory is just my memory. Then we were talking about, we could go back and we could request all the separate things. But if we were to bring something completely separate to them, I mean, we're having them ask for more things.
I do think it's important for regional representation. And how our legislators to take that, because you have at least one person currently in this thing, not knowing the other people on the thing that are in the conversation realms within these types of concepts. And within that, we don't know where it's gonna go. And on an advisory side, we can't make an opinion. Obviously, a law has been on the books for a year and a half or two until 3 to 4 years later. I am really concerned about the students that come in here as legislative, students and other things, and not knowing the full view of what we had a month or two ago. It's not that I'm against it. As chair, I'll do what I need to do on this, but it is about how important it is to have, the new and old service model within 24/7 care. It's not a new system. We need the language of today's reality than the senior reality it was when we make these concepts. And that's something that's very hard when it took a lot of effort, and we need people like yourself in your position and others from the state who have helped me with this language within these 24/7 service models. SACU, host homes, whatever you want to point out, and it being dropped out as a simple maker, when we know others may or may not change the law in the future, not on this council, but on other ideals within the Judiciary Committee and other considerations. So it does worry me about the language going backwards rather than forwards. But I also understand how the advisory councils want to be together as a state, wide ideal, Lane County, Sonoma County, and other ideals. But I also don't know where that voice is, where we just make simple language rather than the full language that we worked on. All right, I'm done.
I have a kind of a clarifying, and I might need one of you two to help me navigate this one. I know that this is a letter that we were talking about for the past, several months, right?
Yeah.
But we've been recently given some very clear guidance on how the advisory council is able to provide testimony and provide recommendations to the state. And that is that it has to go through the appropriate channels through the county. So it does need to go through Kim and Stacy, right? To our director and PGA, and then through county council, right, Board of County Commissioners before we can send it. Or through them, I believe that,
All right.
I don't know,
well,
we'll need guidance on.
Yeah, I don't know where it goes at, but PGA representative.
PGA, okay.
And identifies which legislative.
we can send forward.
Yeah.
So basically we have to,
Share information with, so the information has to go there first, and we
And so
did that last week.
Since it does deal with cross-county relationships and ways of trying to, go to Washington County and other things, just a question off my mouth and my head right now, but does that mean that the representatives of the county programs like Donna Lisa needs to be aware of this because it is dealing with other representations of those who represent the counties within those type of legislative concepts? Because I want to get something done. It's that type of.
This isn't a legislative concept. We're not proposing legislative concept. What we're proposing is that we want to send this to leadership, if it's ODDS leadership, right? If it's.
It says policymakers of Oregon, that's why.
Yeah, so if what we're saying is we got clarity that it has to go through our processes here at the county before it can go elsewhere. So as soon as the letter is done and we have it addressed to whoever we want it to go to, then we'll send it through our channels and they'll tell us, yes, it can go here, or it can't go here.
All right, so what should be in the portion? Yeah, please.
So I just want to clarify as well. So you're saying, rather than, so Washington County is already on board, but I could ask them, to hold on or whatever. So are you saying before I reach out to Multnomah County or anyone else, we should obviously we need to get to the final draft to begin with, but.
Yeah,
should
once
we-
the final draft is done, then we want to be able to make sure that we can put our name on it.
Sure. So I should halt reaching out to other councils for the time being. Is that
Yeah,
I'm hearing?
I would wait, and then as soon as you're all in agreement on the final draft, let us know and we'll send it through our process so that we can get approval on that we're okay to put our name on it and send it to the places we want to send it to.
Okay, that's fine. That's totally fine. How do we want to get through the process of getting it to the final draft?
I think, I mean, like I said, I like the language that we had, so with Amy and with Leo and others, but I also understand that is a movement that would like Multnomah County, Washington County, Lane, and other commissioners that may or may not be known in ways of that type of thing. So I understand the chair was supposed to move on, and Joe did a great job at explaining that last meeting we were at the basic level again. I personally, for the record, wish that it would be all 24/7 service models, but I also understand we need to move something forward. But the thing that I don't know about if we're gonna address policymakers is that there could be concepts passed that people on the advisory side won't even advise on years and years later. And that's what I don't know what the next portion of the process is,
I think
as I would like to do it as quick as possible with you guys. But I don't know that process yet. And what should we do next?
I think that perhaps maybe overthinking it a little bit,
Thank
and
you.
that we really just need to get the letter done. Get the idea across of what it is you're asking for, and I think the original idea was good, and asking too much, not too much. You're not asking too much, but
Correct.
the other things in. Asking for the initial ask, which was a duplication of systems that already exist, is the basic ask.
Please write down.
Was at least the opening of the door, right? The simplest ask, get the door open and then build on that. But get the door open was the way to go, and then we can build on it later if we get traction, if there is traction that's built with that, and just because we have to get it through our process. No, we need to get it out, get it out the front door.
I
Right?
understand.
So do we just vote like if this is okay?
If this is okay, like if this is okay, if this is the version you want, right? If this is the version you want, if you want a previous version.
I'm gonna do a check before that.
So to me, it's 100% with Kim, because it is making it clear that this is needed, making it clear that it's appropriate, and that there is already a registry in place that they could use as a template. Basically just drawing attention to it. And then, going back, like I said, going back and requesting add-ons, because then you can start from a framework of, you've already agreed to this. This is now in place. We need to point out that there are additional placements and caregivers and all this kind of stuff. I'm afraid that we run the risk of them coming back and saying, we are not going to allocate funds to creating something new if we just shoot for the moon and then, and don't start with trying to get our foot in the door first. That's
When
my
you put a
concern.
concept in, you're not shooting for the moon. You're dealing with the policies, the lobbyists, and those who are advocating for that. So you're not shooting for the moon when you're making a letter like this to me. I don't know, but
So my question would be, it wouldn't, how should we entitle the letter? Not for the policy and the board thing, but from whom would it be more appropriate to say?
Whoever you're wanting to send it to.
Well, I mean, we were just saying it's not legislation, but it
No.
needs to go up the chain of the ODDS, right?
Put that on.
So is that appropriate, or should it be shifted to another? I know that's a hard question to ask, but,
And I'm sorry, Sarah, I did not catch everything you were saying.
well, we were just saying how it's not legislation, so, and it needs to go up the chain and end up at at the top of ODDS, so are we addressing it to the wrong individuals?
Hmm.
Essentially.
I don't think it's mistitled.
Okay.
I think everyone has talked about, it needs to go through the chain. And you're trying to draw attention to this, so I think that's good enough. I mean, the title part.
Public records.
Yeah, and if it becomes a bigger thing, then obviously you can, make those edits at that time, build on it. But I think for the initial letter, I mean, that's just my
Yeah.
2 cents on
The
that.
PTA might say, here's our recommendation of how you change
Oh, they will.
that title, if you're gonna send it, and here's who you might,
Yeah.
here's who we would be comfortable having you send it to.
Yeah.
And
And I'm sorry, could I ask?
So let's make the
So
letter.
then can we,
Yeah,
yeah,
Public and government affairs.
Yeah.
Sarah,
I'm sorry, could I ask what who is PCA?
PGA, Public and Government Affairs,
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Government Affairs Office.
Go up the chain and then we can vote for it. I also want to point out, we're gonna make certain things known, definitely in March and April and June. I really don't know when the timing of the meeting should be with us as advisory council, because there's 4 months that we didn't meet. And during the time of not legislative concept, now we're in a different conversation right now. But in policy, concerns versus the direction of going up and down the chain. So I want to make sure for the record that, it would be nice to know when we should have these concept meet ideals and how we should move forward within these conversations with other powerful decision makers. Thank you.
honestly, I feel like we need to get our bylaws going before we can start focusing on any legislative. We need to at least know where we're coming from before we start
We
addressing
do.
that, so where we going?
Yeah.
So
Please,
I wanted
please
to
help me
ask
on this.
the council, did everybody got a copy of it? Were you all able to read it, and would you feel comfortable voting on submitting it today?
To
Yes.
PGA,
Well, to Kim and
it has go
Stacy.
to Kim and Stacy
Yeah.
first, okay. Leah, I don't wanna call out, but did you get to read that new draft that came out today? Or would you like, okay, I'm gonna call for a vote.
I did respond to the email saying that I agreed with you that I really wish that PSW and DSP was in the language.
Okay. So for the record, it is on now written in for other people to read for Clackamas County Advisory, Leah, but we do need to go for a vote. And it sounds like we're gonna do as is, and I will have an explanation of vote afterwards.
Mhm.
So we're calling for a vote for this report. We need the person to give it to Clackamas County, Kim Cote and Stacy Mullen, thank you. In ways to go through the process of how we go to the next process of this conversation. Do I have a first or a second?
First thing.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. And do we have any discussion? Leah, do you have any discussion? And it looks like your hands up.
I don't want to belabor this because I'm happy with the document. I just wonder if it would make more sense to have a sentence in there that just says, we recognize that this isn't all encompassing of the kinds of employees that are working with our clients. Just putting a line of some sort in there that kind of opens the door to, we want to be like you, but we recognize this isn't quite enough for us. And it just leaves us room then to come back later.
I don't know what the direction of that will be personally, but I hear you that you like employee voice in that. Am I hearing you a little bit and recognizing that?
Just that there are DSP, there are people that are not included in this that work for us.
Like not everyone's in residential.
Employment model, and not having an employment model not all employment models are included, but we recognize that.
Right.
That in my, how, did that get into the record in ways of how we can move forward and where will we put that?
And Sarah has recommended this.
Yeah, short,
And we should say
Thank you,
that
Ann.
one more time so I can jot it down verbatim.
Well,
'Cause that
I
was
just,
good.
I would just say, that we recognize that this isn't all inclusive for our group. As it relates to the employees,
model.
the employee model or the caregiver model, or, something to that.
We understand it's not all employee.
Because, I think the employee thing is the problem, is that, we don't, that's an HR that's protected. That information is protected individually. And it's up to the agency, to identify and to make sure that the background check people know that this has happened. I don't know that we'll ever get through any kind of a process that allows us to know who might have been accused but wasn't charged.
I mean, even people who do end up with substantiated claims would not be included in that if they are not an agency.
Right.
Not everyone is in residential services. There are people who have disabled adult children, like living in their home, who are hiring, DSPs or PSWs, who then would not be able to find out that those people have substantiated claims against them.
Right.
Please try to explain if you can, sir.
So I
I-
just think let's add a sentence,
Yeah.
that just says, we recognize that this is a good first step for us.
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
Probably add it in this last paragraph.
Yeah, I fully hear that entirely and I agree. And even as like an adult foster home provider, there are so many other models that should be in here too, right?
Yeah.
Not just adult foster home providers. I feel like when this originally came to the council, we were just trying to identify something that mirrored what was already out there. And so that's where that came from. I am open to the council, I want to push it if you guys want to push it through and get it done. I'm okay with adding something else, either way,
I think I'm okay with that
Council needs
being the last sentence of the language. I would love to say all service models, but I understand we at least got to a point where service models need to be considered while we go up the chain.
Yeah.
Is that,
I'm also
in
fine
what
with
Ann's
either
trying to
way.
say?
Well, I think it.
I'm not saying I totally agree, Ann, but I'm saying I get the language and I appreciate that as a council member.
I feel like the more we add to it, then it goes.
We're not
back to
adding,
where
we're just
it's too
reinforcing.
much. So
Thank you.
it's
a fine line.
Trying to, I know, yeah, I know.
So do we want to add that portion of this in the discussion portion, or do we want to just sustain it to what we have?
I would appreciate a commitment from the council that if this does get pushed through, that it's not gonna just fall off there, and that we would be pushing to add the more inclusive language.
So asking for a future commitment to the council in the ways of the notes and those who do those type of decision making as we move forward with this policy needs to be noted. If the council has any objections. I hear no objection, Sarah Short, sorry,
Yeah, just two things really quickly. Lyra, I'm on it. Totally. It's on my list completely to hopefully, like we said, get us in the door and then keep working on this, because I totally recognize the importance and totally value your thoughts on that. The other thing is, once we because I'll need to figure out where this goes exactly. And so what I'm going to need to do is add it in, which I'm happy to do. I think it's a great point. And would everybody be okay if I just email it back out and get an email response? Are we good? I mean, if we can vote now, but then if I can just get an email response, because I don't want to wait until the April meeting.
No, I don't want to wait too.
To Stacy
That's
and-
my
and-
objection.
Yeah, I think.
I say we vote.
Yeah.
I'm happy either way, with the sentence or not. I just brought it up to see
I
if
just
that.
thought the sentence should be at the last portion. We had our discussion, we're gonna add it in the last portion, Sarah. If you put all service models or models, what Ann pointed out, that's been on record, and just compare that. I think I'm willing to take a vote, if one wants to take one now, as chair. And I will have an explanation of votes, if we did take it today. So do you guys want to second, first and second, that last paragraph of the last sentence? And then we can approve it.
Yeah, I mean, I first, I second it.
All right, there we go. So, Leo, your notes were taken again for the future, and I heard no objection from the council of the competing voice. But we're gonna vote for that last portion of what Ann pointed out at the end of this finalized draft that we received in ways to recognize the service models and how the decisions are made. I'm gonna go for a vote right now, and we have to say, yeah, how do we want to do it nowadays? I used to do thumbs up, happy face.
No, I need a raise hand because otherwise it's hard to tell.
All right,
if you
so Leo, you may have to be on video or put it as
Raise your
a
hand.
raise hand thing on your thing. But what I'm gonna say is all who say yay to this, raise their hand now.
How do I raise my hand?
Okay,
Down at the bottom, I think there's an option to
6.
raise your hand, otherwise you can tell us you're raising your hand.
You can tell us, yeah.
you can tell us, I think, hopefully.
Hand raised?
Yep, hand
So-
raised.
Thank you.
All right. Do
Literally.
I hear any nays on here? No
Everyone.
abstaining. My explanation is crucial to individuals of all ages with IDD to be included in these competitions from concept to end. I do see some of that language, maybe not all, but I appreciate trying to hit these levels with Kim and Amy and Sarah Lambert and Sarah Schwartz. And all these people are trying to make a voice for the full concept, give or take, how we began, how others maybe interpret it to what the future legislation or whatever policymakers make. So that's why I voted yay on this in ways of that type of hopefully collaboration for the future of the council.
Just wanted to say something really quickly. Lyra,
Uh-huh.
for future, if you look at the bottom of your screen, there should be a button that says reactions. If you click on that, it should pop up and say raise hand at the bottom.
I see. Okay. Awesome.
Awesome.
And I just want to say thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. So happy to be inch by inch moving us forward. This is great. Thank you.
All right. Been a journey. I wish we didn't have that 4 months off too.
Yeah,
I appreciate. Yeah.
that? Why is there that big gap in meetings?
We only have about 10 more minutes. I don't know where we are on the schedule, but
We actually doubled the meetings from the original bylaws.
yeah, the original bylaws literally had like 3 to 4 meetings. And every 3 to 4 months practically.
Wow.
And I pushed for a policy explanation in January, the first year. We got it to 5, and then it was redone, another year, the council agreed to come a little bit more to 8, I believe. And so you still have 4 months a little bit off. Please,
Before we ask for any public comment, I just wanted to say, really quickly, 2 things. One, Lara, to answer your question also with what John said, we took, November, December off so that people could be with their families because time commitment might be a little tough during that time. And then we took, July and August off so that summer breaks and family vacations, just to kind of honor everyone's commitment and time. That's why we.
You mind if I call you out?
To be off.
Oh, sure.
The second thing I wanted to say really quick is, because we don't have the meeting minutes from last month, can everybody remind me who was on that bylaw subcommittee so that I can start an email chain today and get everybody going so that hopefully we can get this done before the next meeting? So if you volunteered to be on that bylaw meeting, can you just kind of give me like a little?
I think I did. I may not be perfect, but I may change my mind and give or take what the records show.
Okay.
I'm on there. I was on there.
Yeah.
And this is, or if you're interested now, this is just to meet, with a small little group, go over the bylaws, iron them all out. And then bring us the final draft and then the council can vote on it. So it's kind of like a little subcommittee so that we can get this done. because we've been
And it
trying
may
to
take
do
a lot of
for long
time, give or take.
Right.
So,
Most of it was gone through by this entire, by the
Yeah.
group
Mhm.
months and
Yeah.
months ago.
There's
So
literally
just
a little.
a tiny bit.
Yeah,
yeah.
it
Is
takes
anybody
time.
else
It's a
interested?
self-advocate and I took practically 6 hours and he was absolutely on top of it, maybe a half-hour explanation. And it was great in the way that we forward language. Bruce, I'm sorry to call you out, but I want to make sure that you feel included in ways of this conversation. Have you have any questions or ways that you would like to express to the community in ways that what your expertise may be?
I appreciate the offer, right? This is my second real meeting, so I'm just
Oh,
still listening.
all right, I hope to
So-
hear your expertise, give or take, agree or not agree on policy, okay?
Right.
I appreciate you being here.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. All right, perfect.
I don't know
Thank
which
you.
one of these is I'm assuming this one is the revision.
I haven't seen it printed. I'm on my computer, but maybe.
Yeah, the revision had a little bit more, and it had more opinions and angles.
Okay, but
Yeah.
I will commit to getting all that squared away and.
Oh, the
send out
bylaw.
and get
Okay,
everybody
yeah.
Together. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Great. Sorry, now.
No, we're good. If not- Yeah, bylaws have the mission statement or whatever.
I have a question which might fall under public comment, I don't know, but, if the council able to vote via email? Like
Yes.
if we needed to
Yes.
vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to go through the chair, co-chair and Amy, but yeah, once it goes through the proper channel. Give or take what other counties or other people want, yeah. Okay, did we do most of it outside of the abuse reporting system update?
You mean the
Outside of it,
1915?
We did everything but we did talk about the reduction in hours, actually.
Yeah.
The only thing we didn't cover was
HCB.
which I know.
Yes.
You know what.
Oh, the HBCDS. Alright. Do want to remind our council that if you would like the HBCS or other things, please keep us updated. We have a list of stuff for the future months. But I do believe we have the next half. Sarah Lambert, do we have the next half a little bit open, for the next chair to make open suggestions for topics? And I see Sarah Short's hands and I see Amy's hands.
Go ahead, Sarah.
So in terms of changing the bylaws, I'm not on the subcommittee. I'd like to make a recommendation that we add an additional spot for a self-advocate if possible. I think it could be really valuable to have more than one voice from that part of our community. How would I go about suggesting that? How do I, if I'm not, in
Ed
the,
has been in note, and I would second that right away, but I would like to have more conversations in the bylaw committee. In ways to try to understand all of our wisdom, rather than just, my own personal desire or it's just one person's desire, okay?
oh yeah,
So-
I just wanted to put it out there that I think it would be a good thing.
And out to the public, I am absolutely willing to have 5 in all service levels. Self-advocates, but that's my own personal opinion.
And as far as the future agenda, it is only been made up until June.
Exactly.
So I'll call for after, for more input if needed, to include newer members of the council, because I had a bunch from previous members, but yeah, John, to answer your question.
Just want to make
The
sure
last
that
6 months of.
I believe in a set agenda, but I also understand there's some new members that may need to chime in too. So that I just want to make sure that the 1915 HSDF waiver, that we had to sidestep it today for other conversations. I want to make sure that we're not forgetting.
What that means.
I don't know because it was done by another council member, but I do know that home-based community care and who they represent.
Yeah.
And rather than, as a voice of the county.
Yeah.
May need to have that conversation within home care based care in the future.
If I'm remembering correctly, and I may not be, I thought it had something to do with training and, like more training requirements were coming down with the HCBC Medicaid, and would that impact the county like financially and in other ways, like would it somehow directly impact you being able to keep up with that because of the new requirements?
Like
Something
some
to
core
that effect.
competencies.
Yes, yeah,
Oh.
yeah, it was like on that kind of a,
Well, nothing's come down from that yet, but we'll keep an eye out for it, so yeah.
because it just seemed like there was much more of a demand that was gonna be placed on that, yeah.
And again, why I agree with it, because home-based community care is represented by another type of ideal. I would like,
Yeah.
those voices to be amplified once you need that input.
Sure, yeah.
Did I see a hands up outside, Amy, while we have public comment? Yep, Amy, did I see one out there, Sarah Short, or anyone? No, I apologize, I just want to make you, Amy?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick update that I'll do in 1 minute. Our new website is up and live, so you can go ahead and check that out. I wanted to show it today, but you can just check it out yourself if you just pull up DD Clackamas County. You should be able to pull that up and take a peek in there. The other thing I wanted to, we had a new members meeting this morning. And no worries, because we caught up earlier. But I did make a binder for the new members. This one's just like a show one, if you wanted to take a peek at it.
Yeah.
And anyways, there is a video that new members will need to watch and something to sign, but I will catch up with each of you. And I know you were in the office and you came before I was ready for you, so I will catch up with you. But anyway, I have that here if you have about 20 seconds to look at it.
All right, congratulations.
So,
Like I said, the website thing's been a 2-3 year process, even though I would love to have an adaptive website, but you and I would love to have that conversation 9 years or 8 years later, that's okay. Thank you very much. Any public comment out there as we move forward and get on with our lovely opportunities in life? I hear none. And any other last remarks are good for the order? Yeah, absolutely. Full inclusivity is very important within research to public consumption. So, that's my good of the order for the future. All right. Who would like to first second it and we to go?
Yeah.
One, you got another one out there? All right, do we have a second out there to end the
Second.
meeting?
Second.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your expertise.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys. Good luck with everything you do on the outside also.
Thank you.
Bye bye.